that we don't have enough space on campus. We need to offer our programs in Gallatin College through 4 different venues in Bozeman because we just don't have enough space to fit to meet the incredible demand. So that's one of the projects that we have been in conversations with our legislators about, isn't this the right time for us to build a home for Gallatin College so that then we can offer not only the incredible programs that we offer now, but also to expand that offer. You're right. Our students don't have the time sometimes to think about a 4-year program, but when they think about a can-do, hands-on, limited commitment coming to Montana State, then they're ready to enter the economy immediately. And then what happens is, once they come here to Montana State and they're successful with that program, then their horizons expands, and then many times they translate that into a 4-year program with us.
Okay, great answer, thank you. Mary, this is a little bit out of your bailiwick, but I do know you like to grow raspberries. And this viewer in Missoula wants to know how to keep their raspberries producing. They aren't bearing fruit anymore, and I have a theory, but I'll let you go ahead and answer first.
I think, cultivating a healthy plant, making sure they're thinned so they get enough water. Also, there's just a decline over time. If it's a very old bed, it may have accumulated a number of viruses and cane borers, and sometimes you just want to take a break for a year and then start over, but don't use your neighbor's raspberries. Get some certified disease-free raspberries.
I agree, and make sure you prune out the right canes.
That too, yes.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the last 2 years in Bozeman, we've had freezes in the spring, and I've just basally pruned everything. So I'm ready for a good raspberry year this year.
So am I. That's my favorite fruit. Jane, from Cascade, this person has problems with Donnie Brome, and they've heard about Rejuvera. I've not heard of that. You want to tell us what it is? And they say it controls cheatgrass. Is that true?
Yeah, so Rejuvera, the active ingredient is indaziflam. It's sold as Rejuvera, and it's a really promising new active ingredient for annual grasses, including cheatgrass, and then I would also mention ventonata, which is increasing in Montana. So it's an interesting herbicide because it's a different mode of action than what we've typically used in rangeland settings. It's actually a pre-emergent.
Wow.
So you apply it anytime from like midsummer to late summer before our annual grasses germinate. And what's interesting about it is it has that activity on the germinating seeds, but it does not have any activity on established perennial plants. So if you think about rangeland settings where we want to preserve those long-lived perennials that we have, this herbicide is taking care of the annual grasses without impacting our perennial species.
Okay, that could be a game changer here in a state like Montana.
It really could be a game changer. I just came from the Western Society of Weed Science conference a week ago, and of course there are a lot of papers being presented about this herbicide. They're looking at non-target impacts and just effectiveness against annual grasses, and it continues to look to be a very effective new tool.
Good, all right. A question for President from Malta. Are there programs addressing agriculture at other MSU programs like Northern and Billings, et cetera? Do we have any agricultural programs there?
We do. And before we move to that one, I just wanted to send the email for Stephanie Gray.
Okay, do it.
Our person from Glendive. It's Stephanie, STEPHANIE.Gray. Gray is GRAY 2, number 2, at montana.edu.
Okay.
We do have agricultural programs in our other campuses, particularly in Northern. We have great programs in Northern and more opportunities. Actually, we have been thinking about, isn't it time for us to think about bringing back something about agricultural engineering in collaboration between Northern and our College of Engineers here in Montana. With Billings, we have been thinking a lot about what other opportunities can we develop in terms of agricultural agribusiness? Since they have a college, an accredited college of business at MSU Billings, that would provide a great opportunity as well. And there are some conversations for two-year programs in our Great Falls College at Great Falls.
Okay. Just out of curiosity, are there any courses that could be offered at MSU that students at Havre could take online or via Zoom or things like that in today's world?
That is an excellent question, Jack, and I really like the opportunity to address that. About 4 years ago, we created this concept that we called Seamless MSU. And we thought that the important thing is for students to enter the portal of Montana State University. And once they are admitted in one of our 4 colleges or one of our 4 campuses, let's provide those students with the opportunity to take classes in any of the campuses. So the answer to that is absolutely yes. You can take a course at any campus of Montana State University, either in Bozeman, Billings, Great Falls, or Havre. Happy to help with that.
Okay, thank you. Let's move over to Lori. From Helena, this viewer thinks she has elm leaf beetle last season. Do you think they need to apply a dormant oil to control that? I don't think that works.
Yeah, actually, maybe you can contact me at insects@montana.edu. I have to look at their life cycle. I don't remember when the best time to control them is. And I know they do come in sometimes as a home invader as well. So, but yeah, get in touch with me and we'll figure out a good time to control that. And you might not need to do anything. I'll just have to look into that.
You know, the elm leaf beetle generally comes in, I think, late enough in the spring or early summer that by that time I don't think they do that much damage, but I could be wrong. I'm basing on what I've seen on the elms I've been around. So.
Yeah, they have a lot of pests, so I just have to remember what time of year that one is active.
Okay, while I have you up, another question from out east, Miles City. This person wants to know when ticks start to appear.
Ooh. Yeah, we usually don't get a lot of our tick questions until the end of April, early May, but they can come out any time of the year when it's above 50. So if you're out in any tall vegetation, they do this behavior called questing, where they'll go up to the top of the vegetation and then they'll wait for a warm-blooded mammal to come by and kind of leech on and get a nice blood meal. So next week when we have these warm temperatures, we could definitely have some ticks out. And we have 2 main species, the American dog tick and the Rocky Mountain wood tick, and they're pretty similar looking. And they don't have Lyme disease, but they do spread Rocky Mountain spotted fever, Colorado tick fever.
You know, we had a caller from Glendive, and actually 2 years ago I was fishing out at Glendive, and the amount of ticks that attacked us, I mean, it was incredible. You know, you get 10 or 12 ticks just being in short grass in no time at all. Are these a problem on humans? Do you need to get rid of them right away if one penetrates? What do you do?
Well, it's a myth that you take the match and you try to get them off that way. You're supposed to take some fine forceps and pull them out really fast because if it's their mouth parts that actually spreading the bacteria. So try to grab them as hard as you can and pull them out that way.
All right, thank you. Back to Mary. Question from the Vida area. Might be the first call we've had from Vida in a long time.
It's been a while.
They're interested in knowing the condition of the pulse seed available, and that would be chickpeas, lentils, peas. Is it readily available, and is the condition of the seed good this year?
So I'm not sure about availability. I know a lot of growers saved their seed because they couldn't ship it last year. We've had a lot come through the lab, especially lately. We tend to get a surge at harvest and then in the spring when people are thinking about planting. It's certainly been smaller than normal, but it's been germinating just fine and disease-free.
Okay.
That's what a couple years of drought will do for you.
I have put a plug in for the pulse industry. You know, 10, 15 years ago, it was basically in its infancy. And right now, in the state of Montana, the pulse crops we produce are world class.
They are.
And we're producing a lot of them. And as you mentioned, the price of almost all commodities are up significantly this
And they
year.
fit
so-
super well with our cropping systems, and now with federal emphasis on carbon sequestration, they have a good fit there. They're going to help save on fertilizer prices, and there's a lot of benefits to pulses.
I agree.
And they taste good.
taste good. I beat you to it. Okay. Interesting Facebook question that I copied before the program. Connie, a lot of Connies tonight in Great Falls, is curious as to where do you see agriculture in the future? And this is for you, President Cruzado. And they say this because they feel that Montana is being invaded by wealthy outsiders, and will this affect agriculture?
Well, that's an excellent question, and it's the same crisis that almost every country is facing nowadays, right? And that is what is the smart way for us to think about agriculture? How are we going to feed the future population of the world? In the case of Montana, I'm very happy to say that we do have good policies to keep in place and to protect agricultural lands, and that it's something that even with the terrible situation that we have in housing, with housing in Bozeman, every time that people say, what is Montana State University doing for it? It's important for us to stay the course and to think about how do we protect the agricultural lands for the future? Because easy answers are not available now, but I need to think about what's going to be the future of agriculture 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 200 years from now. That is the lens through which we anticipate that we need to sort out these questions. One fascinating opportunity that we have in front of us is the future of precision agriculture. Internally, for the colleges of agriculture and engineering, it's a great opportunity for collaboration. How do you bring the best of engineering, the best of technology, the best of agricultural science, combine it and put it at the service of feeding the future, but also maximizing profit for the producers, reducing cost, and that is something that, thanks to our Vice President for Agriculture, Srikala Bachwa, we brought her from North Dakota State because she's one of the preeminent individuals in the nation that has built extraordinary precision agriculture programs in North Dakota and now in Montana. We are very optimistic about the future of agriculture, of precision ag, as a way to start addressing some of the important questions about the future of agriculture here in Montana and in the world.
And add to that, we're going to feature a couple of programs on precision ag.
Excellent.
Of course, the dean will be here one time. And I have a young lady, not so young anymore, but I knew her when she was very young. She started a program and a business in Fort Benton on precision agriculture, and she will be a guest later on this spring discussing how that came about. So I like your answer. It's very, very...
And Jack, precision ag, also on the question of what opportunities for collaboration there are between Bozeman and some of our affiliated campuses, the opportunities for precision agriculture between Bozeman and Havre are also fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Why have you up talking about combinations? This person from Columbia Falls has always felt that timber industry should be in agriculture, but yet it's handled at the University of Montana. Does MSU have any involvement in that they would like to know?
Not in the College of Agriculture formally, that's in the College of Forestry at University of Montana, but through extension we do.
Yep.
Right? We have extraordinary experts in forestry that can help. If people have questions, if they have comments, recommendations, they can reach out to Peter Kolb, who's our expert in forestry, Kolb.
And he's located in Missoula.
He's located in
at
Missoula.
the University
He's
of
right
Montana,
there.
but
Yep.
is
Yep.
faculty member at Montana State.
Exactly.
Okay, thank you. Lori, this is a standard question. Well, I'm going to answer it once this spring. When do you put out wasp traps?
In around the Bozeman area, it depends on where you live, but I usually shoot for Memorial Day.
I think that's true. I always put them out when they start attacking my steak.
Oh,
on the plate.
that's a little too late, Chuck. You want to
Okay.
try to trap the queens when they're coming out, and it's usually mid to late May.
I agree.
Now, Jack, are we really only going to address that question once this season?
Probably not.
I'll hold you to that if I'm on again.
Okay. Jane from Missoula. This person would like to get rid of creeping bellflower. Suggestions?
Yeah, creeping bellflower, very problematic. I'm assuming it's in like a lawn garden setting. That's usually where it's most problematic. If it's been around a long time and you would think of it as well established in your lawn and garden, probably never going to completely get rid of it unless you would excavate your lawn and start over
Right.
again. You have to hit it with about every tool possible. Hand pulling, wiping glyphosate on leaves, 2,4-D and dicamba will work. Trying to keep your lawn and other vegetation, healthy, watering well, fertilizing, but that's one of those pests that this won't be the last time we address it this season, kind of like the wasp traps, but you got to hit it with everything available.
It's a tough one.
Yeah, and it is really pretty, so maybe you could just culture it as a ornamental.
Well, now, wait a minute. You always say, watch out which ornamentals you bring into the state because they become noxious
Yeah.
weeds. Is that
Yeah.
still hold true?
Yeah, it is. It doesn't pose any problems other than some people just don't like it because it becomes pretty aggressive, but it doesn't have any toxicity, so it doesn't pose issues that way. It's more just what you like to have growing in your yard or not.
Okay, thank you. From Billings, this caller would like a definition of precision ag. I'll let Mary, since she's in the dean's office, answer that one.
Well, we've made some pretty good investments in precision agriculture, and so we have 2 engineers and 2 agronomists, 2 men and 2 women that were just hired, and one part of their duties is starting a minor in precision ag and a precision ag farm at the Lutz farm. So what they're doing is applying technology to agriculture. And whether that's for profit, for environmental concerns, it could be managing your water, whatever your need is, they can use all the technologies available, sensors, and then combine them with traditional cultural methods and planting date and all the different measurements and manipulations that we can do. And one of the key parts is making the case that whatever decision the grower makes is going to be economical or meets their goal, whatever their goal is, and documenting that and helping the grower along the process. And so 2 of them do have extension appointments to help with that.
I will mention, of the era where precision ag wasn't commonplace, but what I've read about precision ag is that if you're an environmentalist, you want to be using precision ag because you can save an awful lot of pesticides that are being applied.
You can.
Probably unnecessary, and using the new technology, it will benefit the environment also.
Yeah. Irrigation also. So you're going to just administer the right amount of water, herbicides,
And we have
fertilizer.
a big
yeah?
problem with soil acidity in the state now because of over application of, and that doesn't affects the water that we drink
True.
and use. So that should help with that as well. But managing the data and helping people understand the data that they have has been a major barrier.
Okay, before I go back to President Cruzado, I'm going to let Lori talk about her pets. She always brings pets in. And then I have a real interesting question for you.
Okay, I'm going to try
Wow.
to see if she's going to show up here. I think she is showing up. So this is a cat face spider, and just going to try to rotate her a little bit. Oh,
That's
perfect.
a great picture.
Yeah, so usually this is a native spider for Montana, and we usually see these in the fall. They're usually a bright orange, kind of a Halloween spider, and get to be about the size of a quarter. Their second segment gets to be about the size of a quarter. And usually this time of year, they're in an egg sac form. So we got pretty lucky that my partner found this in his garage and was able to kind of nurse her back to health. And so it's kind of rare to have a spider. She must have just been a sub-adult that didn't quite get to the where she needed to be to mate and made it through the winter. So we're going to keep her as a pet for a little while. She eats flies and lots of other things too. So she's a harmless spider, but one of the most beautiful spiders that we have here in Montana.
Does she bite?
I've never met a beautiful spider.
Oh, I should be careful what I say. She does not bite unless she was trying to protect her egg sac or something like that. But otherwise, unless provoked, she wouldn't bite at all.
So you're speaking about spiders. I've seen in the news and read in various different magazines that there's some big invasive spider showing up in the southern part of the United States. Are you familiar with this?
Yeah, the spider's been making the news. Yeah, so this spider actually showed up. It's called the Juro spider, and it made it to Georgia several years ago, but recently has just been several, as an adult, it gets to be about 3 inches long.
That's a biggie.
It's a biggie. And a harmless spider, but it's creates a lot of webbing, and the spiders can spread through a process called ballooning, where they release a little bit of silk, and you can have lots of little spiderlings around with lots of webbing. And I think it's kind of become a nuisance for people around the southeast area, and they're worried that it's going to keep moving up the coast, and I think some people worry that it's going to make it here too.
So say it moves here. You say they're not a problem.
They're not a problem, they're beneficial.
Okay, let's invite them in.
Yeah, well, yeah, and I think the only issue that you'd have to worry about is that they might displace some native species. And so far that hasn't been a concern, but I say bring it in. We don't have I don't think it would do very well in Montana because they need a lot of moisture, so.
Where is it native to?
I think it's native to Japan. That's a good question.
Oh,
Yeah, so, but I can't remember exactly.
Okay.
did you share that your spider prefers live food?
Yeah, the spider prefers live food, so yeah, we have to put it'll get a live fly later. There are some things flying around in there, but it's not eating any of them.
It's shy.
It's
it
shy.
doesn't want to eat in front of the audience.
You're right, yep.
Okay, I've learned enough about spiders for the present time. Let's move on. This question came from John and Dylan, and I have a sneaking suspicion I know who this is. It has to do with the wool lab here at Montana State University and the current status of the wool lab. So I'm going to let the president take over on this because I know you've been actively involved in working with that.
And I have a very good friend by the name of John in Dylan, in John Halley.
I suspect that's where it came from.
And he's a great partner of Montana State University. So the wool lab, needless to say, it's a great source of pride for us at Montana State University. Nowadays, there are only 2 wool labs left in the nation. And one of them happens to be here at Montana State University. The other one is in Texas. The third one that closed recently was in the state of New Mexico, actually, at New Mexico State University, where I used to be before coming to Montana State. Needless to say, the importance of the wool lab for our growers, for our producers, and actually for the future of clothing, for the future of fiber is absolutely essential. And we want to continue to support and to expand the operations of the wool lab. Last legislative session, thanks to our wonderful legislators, we received an appropriation of $5 million that we promised that we were going to match with $1 million that we were going to fundraise. We are about 40% of that goal. We have also started some important conversations with the vet diagnostic lab and with the livestock department about opportunities for collaboration and partnerships between the wool lab and the vet diagnostic lab. The vet diagnostic lab will also be building a new facility. So there might be opportunities there for synergies, for collaboration, for economies of scale if we can tackle some spaces together, some shared services, and those conversations are ongoing. So we're very excited about the future of the wool lab. We are in the process of identifying a possible location for it in the campus of Montana State University. So it's a great opportunity for the future of wool in the state.
I'll add to that a little bit. I know they process around 15,000 samples a year, which is a lot to give you the quality of the wool and what people that utilize the wool want. They also, that wool lab is kind of an innovator for an industry called duckworth wool.
Yes.
And that's been one of the offshoots of the wool lab here. So it's a pride of Montana State University, has been for years, and I'm glad we're expanding that now.
It is certainly a source of pride, and the 15,000 samples are going up. Last year we had a record year. So that bodes well for the future of wool production in the state. And again, we want to be there. We want to partner with the producers and to make sure that they are as successful as we can, because it's high quality wool.
It is.
That's what we produce in Montana.
Along with a lot of other high quality crops
Absolutely.
like barley and wheat and
Yep.
so forth and so on. And we do a good job here in
We do.
Montana. Jane, this interesting question from Macomb County. This caller wants to know if paraquat is dangerous. His memory is that paraquat was a component of Agent Orange used in Vietnam. And I don't think that's correct. I think it was 2,4,5-T.
Yeah, I agree, Jack.
He is receiving advertisements for paraquat as being widely touted and used throughout the world, and he's quite concerned about crop dusting with it. I don't think we're using much paraquat anymore, are we?
The best person to talk to about this would be Cecil Tharp, and he's our pesticide safety and education specialist. But the viewer's correct. It's one of the most dangerous herbicides, if not the most dangerous herbicide that we use in kind of the weed control industry. And I'm not going to remember the details, but recently and really ongoing, we see different regulations, safety regulations surrounding the use of paraquat. So that's why I think talking to Dr. Cecil Tharp would be the best.
And we'll get his phone number, maybe
Okay.
not right now,
Okay.
but we'll have it. And
Do you think there's more ads because of the lack of glyphosate availability, or?
Possibly. I mean, paraquat is a burn down herbicide, and it's also it's used with herbicide resistant weeds like kochia and wild oat. So some of these weeds we have that have developed resistance to multiple modes of action, paraquat is one of the last herbicides we have available to use on some of these. So I think that could be why he's hearing more about it.
I think there's some lawsuits, class action lawsuits being advertised with paraquat, and I suspect that
Probably.
creates some. I think diquat, which is safer, has kind of replaced paraquat as a burn down in a lot of situations. But anyway, we'll have more information on that. It's a great question, and thanks for asking it. President Cruzado, this is a Facebook question from John and Dylan. I think it's Jon and not John. The person, he is interested in majoring in ag at MSU. He would like to know if a career in international agriculture is feasible if he gets a degree here at MSU, and he'd also like to know, is MSU involved internationally, and how could students become involved? There's a lot of questions there.
Wow, that is fantastic. So the answer to John, to many questions, is yes. We have a great Office of International Programs at Montana State University. We just hired a new wonderful dean. His name is Christoph Zaba, Z-A-B-A. I think easier for me to give you my email address, wcruzado at montana.edu, and I will refer you to Christoph Zaba. Before I go specifically to that, we would welcome, of course, more students in the College of Agriculture, although I need to say in the last few years, our College of Agriculture has been experiencing incredible growth. For example, this last fall, we were less than 80 students short of crossing for the first time of mark of 2,000 students in the College of Agriculture. That is good news, not only for Montana State University, that's great news for the nation. This spring semester, actually, student enrollment has grown by an additional 4% when compared to last spring. So There is great interest in agriculture. We have fantastic programs. The faculty have done an incredible job making sure that our programs are up to date and actually very exciting in responding to the needs of the industry and to the interest of our students. Our Vice President and Dean of the College of Agriculture, her name is Shrikala Bachwa. Shrikala is originally from India, and I'm sure that Shrikala would welcome an opportunity to talk directly with the student that's interested in this, in international agriculture. Last but not least, our Department of Ag Econ is world renowned. It has spectacular faculty members who are fantastic instructors and teachers, but also fantastic researchers. So I'm sure that the prospective student or students will have many options available in international agriculture at Montana State. Happy to help too.
I agree. If you get a degree in agriculture from MSU, and if you have an interest in international agriculture, there's really nothing holding you back.
There's nothing holding.
Okay, from Billings, this is an interesting one for Lori. Whatever happened to the bed bug pre-COVID scare that was around a couple of years ago? We still have a problem with them?
We do still have a problem with them. I actually didn't get very many samples the last couple of years because we didn't have obviously as much travel, but especially in low-income housing, we still have quite a bit of an issue with bed bugs, and we didn't get a lot of people in to be able to inspect bed bugs. So yeah, they're still around, and they can survive a good solid year without any food. So we still have bed bugs, unfortunately.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read a comment from Glasgow, and I appreciate comments. We always enjoy getting comments and also criticisms if you have them. From Glasgow, this caller notes, Ag Week is approaching. Now is a good time to recognize strides that the ag community has made in avoiding dirt clouds, and I agree with that entirely. During high winds, ag practices of crop rotation of cereal, pulse, and other crops should be noted and applauded. And I appreciate that comment, because I can remember when I moved here, the last ice age, we had a lot of dirt clouds, and we also had a lot of tumbleweeds in kochia, in the fence lines. You get across the border to Canada, you didn't see the kochia in the fence lines, and that's because we were doing recreational tillage instead of using some of the current technology that we now have. So bottom line, that's an excellent comment. We appreciate it. And I want to throw a tough one at the president here. This person would like to know what MSU and the state of Montana can do to help Montana dairy farmers. Idaho has a good program. We used to have a dairy program here. We don't anymore. Any comments on that?
Not offhand, but that's something that I would welcome an opportunity to expand that conversation with the dean and the vice president of agriculture. As I said before, part of the mission of Montana State University is making sure that we address the needs of our producers, that the partnerships that you mentioned before, Jack, are there in place. And if there's areas where we need to reconsider what do we need to do with the dairy industry, I'm happy to expand on that area as well. Absolutely. This is the right time for us to consider that. Montana State University is in a very solid place where now we can look at the horizon and say, so what's in the future for us, right? As I said before, what's in the future in the next 10, 20 years for the state of Montana? And how can the land-grant university, your university, make sure that we realize that potential?
I'll just mention real quick that Extension is doing a needs assessment of the state right now, and that would be a good opportunity for them to provide some feedback. Good answer. You mentioned that. Tell us about the Ag Bus Tour. This is a good chance to talk about that a little bit. You're involved with that every year, or every other year, whenever you do it. So you want to explain what's going on with that?
Absolutely. We started the Ag Bus Tour back in 2011. Actually, the first one was Follow the Beef. We always do, we always have an ag-related theme to it. We have Follow the Beef, Follow the Wheat. We have followed, the energy as well. So we have been able to cover actually 53 out of the 56 counties in Montana already. We had to take a pause because of COVID, And we haven't been able to have our bus tour for 2 years now, but this summer we are resuming the Ag bus tours, and we are going to Beaverhead County, actually, and the theme of this year is Follow the Water. Such an important resource. For those folks that have not been able to join us in the past, what we do is for 3 days, we take all the upper administration of Montana State, all the vice presidents, all the deans, directors of units. We take student leaders, we take faculty leaders, we take alumni in one bus, and off we go to have an opportunity to meet with the people of the state of Montana. I think it's very important for us to leave Bozeman and to go to Montana, to sit down in cafes, in bars.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
To have breakfast with our legislators, to listen to the people that make this wonderful place happen, right? To thank personally the parents who believe in the promise of Montana State University. So that's what we're going to do this year. It's always the third week in June. We like, when possible, to make it coincide with field day, if we happen to have a field day in close proximity. But we're in the process of organizing our alumni, our legislators in Beaverhead, and I look forward to seeing everybody there.
Hey, great, and that's a beautiful county.
It is a gorgeous county.
Absolutely. There's a lot of wool being produced out of that.
Well, what a coincidence, right?
Happens, doesn't it? All right, quick question from Hamilton for Lori. She'd like an update on the giant hornets that were found in Washington. Are they moving closer to Montana?
That's a good question. I haven't heard anything. I know we haven't, as far as I know, we don't have any reports here in Montana, but I don't know if we've had any other reports in Washington, if it's spread. So I definitely, you can email me at insects@montana.edu. I'll look into that for you to see where we're at with that. I know we're monitoring for it. The Montana Department of Ag is monitoring for it, but where it's at, I'm not sure.
Okay. Question from Missoula. Are there any new noxious weeds of concern moving into Montana? And that's your...
Well, the one I would say that everybody should be on the lookout for is ventonata. It's another annual grass like cheatgrass. I've talked about it before on the show, but that's probably the species we have moving the most rapidly across Montana. There's a handful of other invasive broadleaves, rush skeleton weed, yellow star thistle we're always on the lookout for. Montana's done a great job of keeping that out of the state. Occasionally it shows up, but go to the noxious weed list and look at those top priority species, priority 1A and 1B, and those would be the ones that you really want to keep your eye out for.
Ventonata, I do not know what it looks like. So your assignment next time you're on the program is to bring a sample to show me and to show the audience what it looks like, because that's a relatively new one.
It is, yep, I will do that. Or at least bring a picture, because it's not going to be mature for a couple months yet, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, when it's mature, you're going to be back in June, I'm sure.
That's true. It is. It's about in its glory in mid-June. So.
Well, then you bring it in mid-June. Okay. You know, it's been a fun program this evening. In about 30, 40 seconds, President Cruzado, anything else you'd like to add about agriculture in the state of Montana?
I just need to say, well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, Jack, and for the incredible opportunity to share this panel with these extraordinary women who are experts in their field. I just want to close by reaching out to the wonderful people that do the work of agriculture in Montana, just to say thank you. Montana State University is thriving, and it's because of you. The incredible opportunities that you afford this university, the incredible people that you send to us, the many contributions, and I am just in awe and in admiration of agriculture in Montana. So thank you so much, and go Cats.
I agree with you. Folks, glad you joined us this evening. We'll be back next week. Interesting program next week. We'll have Hannah Turner from the Craft Brewing and Malting Lab here at Montana State University to share what they're doing for a big industry in the state. Thank you again. We'll see you next week. Have a good week and stay safe. Good night.
For more information and resources, visit montanapbs.org/aglive.
Montana Ag Live is made possible by the Montana Department of Agriculture, the MSU Extension Service, the MSU Ag Experiment Stations of the College of Agriculture, the Montana Wheat and Barley Committee, CASHMAN Nursery and Landscaping, the Northern Pulse Growers Association, and the Gallatin Gardeners Club.